Hey folks, this is WP Roundtable episode 163. My name is Kyle Maurer. I'm coming to you from Jackson, Michigan, and I love doing WordPress stuff every day. That's what I get to do. I work for a company called Easy Digital Downloads, and we do e-commerce stuff. Today, I'm joined by a pretty cool fellow. Knows a little bit about EDD himself, and a theme designer, developer, great, awesome person that I got to meet some months ago at an event. And his name's Rich Tabor. How you doing, Rich?
Hey, Kyle, doing good. Thanks for having me. Yeah,
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for all the kind words. You're so nice.
We're just getting started, man. Yeah, I think very highly of your work, and just all the things that you're doing and the conversations you're being involved in, Rich. You're like you're all over the place and raising the standard for like theme companies and plugin devs. So I appreciate that. And I'm really excited to learn more about your story and talk a little bit about what sort of things you're doing these days. All right.
Sure.
First thing. And you're with, I bet I forget already. You're with ThemeBeans is your company, your main brand, though it's not the only project your name is tied to. So if anybody's curious, who's this rich guy? ThemeBeans.com. Check it out. And now before we dive into your story, let's share some quick picks. Just talk real quick about totally unrelated things that just are kind of new and we think are interesting and worth sharing. So there's a couple that I'll throw at you. Number one is some of my colleagues are very interested in the whole beer thing and also in design. And there's a great article on Medium posted by someone. I can get the author's name here in a second, but it was all about, by Ben Whitla, who's a designer. And Ben wrote about his experience designing the branding for a new beer company. And the beer company was Lord Hobo Brewing, and they have some popular beers, including Boom Sauce. And the article is just like fantastic, and the design is sweet. So we were talking about it in one of our Slack channels, just like how cool it was to like read this expert designer's iterative process to get the right branding for this company, and just see the beautiful work that he did, and also just to witness the branding process for a beer company, which is relevant because Sandhills Brewing is now a real thing. And I work for Sandhills Development, and for the past month or so, Sandhills Brewing, a company owned by our founder, Pippin Williamson, is a real legitimate commercial brewing company, producing truly the best beer one can buy. So if you can check out sandhillsbrewing.com, that might be my second pick to learn more about the awesome beer that's being produced there, and some not too shabby branding, if I do say so. So those are my two real quick picks. Check out this awesome article on Medium about beer branding, and check out sandhillsbrewing.com for some amazing out of this world beer. What do you think, Rich? You got anything cool to share?
Yeah, I got two things, and they're kind of counterintuitive. So the first is I've been listening to Reply All, the podcast. Have you heard of that?
I love it. I love it, man. I've been subscribed for a long time.
I know. I just found it like last week, and I've listened to like a ton of episodes, like every day, like driving my car to the gym. I'm like, yes,
oh man,
it is so great. I love it.
The long distance one where like the guy, he went to India.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That one was nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And my second one is like, counterintuitive to that, because it's I've recently read Deep Work by Cal Newport. Have you heard of that?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of my buddies, Adam, who co-hosts my podcast, has been reading that and talking about it a lot.
Yeah, it's so good, especially like having little ones like at home. Like I work from home, and the two girls are downstairs, but like I just have to be super focused whenever I'm like working and trying to separate that focus and be like super focused. I don't know, and it's just really cool. It's just like, it's so cool. It just like opened my eyes to like actually knowing what focusing is, and I don't know, it's just been super awesome for my productivity. Yeah, hands down. But Reply All hasn't, but it's been great.
Yeah, right. I don't listen to that while I'm working.
Right.
I love that show. I love the yes, yes, no segments that they do.
Yeah.
Those are always fun.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't know, catch me up on things. And a lot of people in like Post Status Slack and in others were talking about a recent episode where they dove into like those Shopify stores, like drop shipping stuff.
Yeah.
That one was just pretty cool and pretty relatable because it ties into some stuff that we encounter in our jobs.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And the deep work stuff, I love it. Coincidentally enough, my colleagues and I were talking about very similar topics in Slack this morning. We started chatting just about starting the day right and what our like work cycles and productivity cycles are like for each of us during the day or throughout the week. How much does a good start to the day affect the rest of our day? How much does a good start to the week affect the rest of the week? And like, when are we doing our deep work? At what time of the day? And yeah, that was interesting to just discuss our team's, different personalities, working styles, and balancing that. Even our team is small, only like 15 people, but numerous time zones and just juggling all of everybody's different style and how much to communicate and how much to maintain radio silence and let people work. It's not easy. It's not easy. No. This whole remote work thing is the future and it's awesome, but we still got a lot to figure out.
Yeah, agreed.
That's for sure. Well, thanks for sharing those, Rich. That's good stuff. Let's talk a little bit about your background. How about that?
Yeah.
I'd like to dive into your story a little bit to set the stage with where you started career-wise in the early days when you had ambition and some semblance of a plan, what you were going to try to take your life towards. What was this grown-up life vision that you had, and how did you take your first steps towards it?
Grown-up life vision. I don't know. I guess kind of like a lot of people in our space, like, sort of fell into this, just kind of caught wind and opened the sails and just kept going with it. I went to school for marketing, or first it was physics and engineering. But I was like, well, this is a lot of work and I don't know what I want to do with it. So I switched to marketing and studied marketing school and learned Photoshop and such in the classroom, just because it was just very dated practices and just, marketing's, it's a great topic, but when you're teaching it without actually doing it, it's really hard to, to really nail it down. So I graduated and I started working doing design at a local marketing agency here. But I mean, I knew Photoshop just from, doing it myself, like here and there. But I mean, I had no idea what I was doing when I first started. It's crazy. So I can't believe they hired me. And they didn't even know how to like resize a document. Like they were like, we need whatever the email header is, like 600 by 90. It's like, oh gosh, it was terrible. So I just, So I just started practicing a ton. I started a blog. I started putting stuff online. I started sharing stuff because I'm a big proponent of like putting stuff out there so you can get a bunch of feedback and, a bunch of criticism, good and bad critiques. And then that way you can grow and just, get better. So I do that. I did that for a couple of years. I moved to New York City to do more design stuff once I actually learned how to do Photoshop. And then I moved back here to Dahlonega, Georgia. It's in the North Georgia mountains. And I started my theme shop and I've been doing themes ever since then. My first couple of themes, I didn't even code myself. I had someone else code. I didn't even know what I was doing. And I just designed it all. And then now that I'm primary developer and designer, it's one of those things I just wanted to learn how to do it. So I just tackled it.
Wow. Yeah, that's a pretty quick journey. So You worked for a marketing agency. You did design work for your themes. You learned how to, right now your primary focus is on your theme store, right?
Yeah, I do. My themes is a pretty big part of it, but right now it's mostly updates and maintenance while I'm, figuring out Gutenberg and where we're going to head and, trying to, triage my old themes based on, the future of Gutenberg. And then I also do reviewing at ThemeForce and do, WordPress theme reviewing. And I've been doing that for, I guess, 2 years, just about 2 years now.
Wow.
Which has been great. Yeah, it's been cool because, I get to see that side of things and also help the folks there set the requirements and, kind of raise things up a little bit, raise the bar. So that's been really insightful and just really cool. And I get to know really cool people in the space.
Wow.
But, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that you got to do that. The theme review process over there at ThemeForce. I don't know a whole lot about that review process. So for 2 years, that's an old platform. Themes have been sold there for a long, long time. Has that process been evolving a little bit? And I would imagine it's significantly different than it used to be years ago. And it seems like it's better now or more strict. What's the process like? I mean, pull back the curtain a little, will you?
Yeah, so there's a giant queue of themes, and when I first started, it was huge, like 800, 900 themes that were waiting in line. Now it's way more manageable, like I don't know, between 1 and 300 typically. And you pull down one and you run it on your local machine, and you install the theme unit test, and you kind of basically just you play around with the actual visual of the theme. And figure out, what's broken from actual using it. And then we go in and check all the code. And we have a huge list of checks that we have. And we've got some automated tools. They've just released a new Envato plugin for theme, like Envato theme check plugin. So it's like specifically for what we're checking for, like those kind of things, which is really not outside of the norm of, what you would expect a quality theme to have, escaping everything. And, just simple things and just not, and there's a line where a theme kind of crosses over into plugin territory, and we try to help define that a little bit. Sure. But it is tricky with the type of themes that we get these days. A lot of them.
Sure. Yeah, that can be a tough line to draw. A lot of diehards tend to argue that it's pretty crystal clear, but I don't really think that that's the case. We'd like it to be. We'd like it to be just like black and white, plugin or theme, very easy decision. But yeah, it can be tricky to determine where functionality belongs.
Right. Yeah.
Sure. Sure, that's the case. Do you? It seems funny. You have your own site where you're selling themes and you're reviewing themes for a marketplace. Is there anything that you sell in Envato?
Yeah, I've got most of my themes on ThemeForce as well, but I'm not exclusive, so I sell on my site too. But I try to keep, when I first started, it was a little bit tougher to manage both and try to keep them separate. So I try to keep, just my interests aligned where they need to be, and try to make sure I'm not stepping on other toes or I'm not doing anything that would, seem like I'm blocking other themes that are coming in to compete with my themes. Because really, like, a lot of the, there's not even a lot of comparison with the type of themes that I do in the majority that's on ThemeForce. So it's not even that big of an issue from my point of view, because my themes aren't super popular on ThemeForce. On my shop, they sell awesome. They're great. But competing with, the massive multi-purpose themes that are half as much as mine is not, it's not where I'm really looking to compete. I don't have a competitive advantage there, but I do outside of there. And that's kind of where I keep my focus for theme selling.
Sure. Yeah, it's good to recognize. Tell us a little bit about what ThemeBeans is supposed to be. Like what sets these themes apart, and like if you had to describe what you hope these themes to be, like what you hope people to think of ThemeBeans as, like just use your own words to describe what's different about this particular theme shop.
It's really all about design. You can put, functionality in plugins or in themes and whatnot, and create these massive, incredible, huge databases of themes or whatever. But what it comes down to is when you're looking at the visual representation of that theme and what you can picture yourself doing with that theme. And no amount of plugins can make a theme look awesome. And, you know, so that's kind of like where I start at when I'm making themes. I figure out the purpose of what I'm doing, and I research and make sure that every single thing I do is 100% purposeful and is beautiful. Like, I want it to be where I would put that on my site, you know, in a jiffy, like, it'd be easy, because it's that kind of quality. And that's kind of where I start. And that's what I do. I focus on design. And it's been, you know, there's been countless, what are they called? Surveys and such that are about, you know, like, what's the most important thing to you with the theme? It's what it looks like, because people care what their website looks like. So it's just kind of like one of those things that a lot of people just don't ever do, or they get carried away with adding a bunch of purpose to their theme. So then it starts getting crowded, and, you know, it just loses the mark. And those are fortunately the themes that aren't selling, and it's pretty obvious. Yeah.
Selling themes is not something I've done before, and not actually something that I've very seriously even considered.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not like I really could. I've made themes, but they suck because I suck as a designer. But, you know, I've never been drawn to the theme space because of a few things, partially just my limitations. I would probably fall flat on my face. But when it comes to themes, they're tough. Design is like, it's so subjective to begin with. But it's always seemed like those who stand to their ground and have like respect for the way it's supposed to be in WordPress, and following standards, and taking a minimalist approach, and keeping things modular, and functionality in plugins, and you know, modern design trends, and whatever, just don't sell as much as those who throw all of that stuff out the window and say, no, you know, we're going to really build a tool shed, like everything in one kind of theme that can do it all and is completely rich with features and super flashy, and you know, and takes months of work to just build it so it looks like the demo. Those kinds of themes seem to just sell great. That seems so frustrating. Is there really a market, and can somebody be successful, like really embracing how we're supposed to do it?
I think, you know, there's, you know, definitely the two spectrums. There's the super massive, ultimate crazy themes, and then there's the really purposeful, singular purpose themes, you know, kind of, you know, like simple blog themes even, where so like you want to fall, I would say, like if it's from 1, you know, 100 is, you know, the massive crazy themes, and 0 is those simple themes. I would say you want to stick to like around 20-25% of the way, because you don't want to cross into the threshold where you're competing with these crazy themes, because those guys are already established, and they can sell at like, you know, $19, $29, $39 per theme, and sell 50 to, you know, 500 a week. And it doesn't matter either way, they're fine. But if you are trying to compete with that, you're going to sell like 5, you know, to try to compete with someone who has 20,000, you know, 40,000, 50,000 sales already. There's no really the leverage that you're losing. You're just losing there. And if you go too simple, no one's going to pay for your stuff. Like, no one's going to, if you can just copy the style sheet and plug it in on your website, like, why would you buy the theme? You know, like, there really is like a mix of getting that purpose and that design aspect, but not competing with the big guys. Because yeah, they're making tons of money, but if you look at most of the new multi-purpose themes and massive themes, they're struggling. You know, like, they're not doing awesome right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I decided to to kind of focus on. Down, not at the very simple where no one's going to pay for you level, but at the people who care about what they're building or what they're using the theme for, and they really don't want, or they've been burned by the massive themes, but and they just happen to like the design because, like you said, it is subjective. And you know, if you keep doing a very objective basic styling, you're not going to get anywhere either. So it is tricky, like you said.
Yeah.
Because even a seasoned developer, like theme developer, can have 30 themes under his or her belt and then release one that does terrible, like right after that. Like there's a lot that goes into each theme and planning it and being purposeful and really focusing on what you're trying to do. Yeah.
Is the theme space a big part of the future of your business?
At least 50% or so. I'm diversifying for sure. Like I'm working on a couple plugin ideas that I have, and I'm working on Gutenberg ideas. And I think Gutenberg and themes together are going to be a good thing in the coming future, until at least Gutenberg takes over more and more of what a theme is. And we're not really, we're still unsure about what that is. But I would say like at least for a couple of years, yeah, because things are going great at my shop. I'm like, especially this year, I think I'm already on track to be the best year so far. And this is like, a theme business. Like,
wow.
I know, it's crazy. But, it's just about focusing, like what Cal says, focusing and being really purposeful about what you're doing, and then attack it. And if it doesn't work, you better switch fast, and just, do a little pivot and go again, or, do a right-hand turn and go into Gutenberg blocks, or, but I think themes are going to be around. Like people want good themes, unless everyone starts building them themselves, which I don't really see that happening too much. But it's like you said, it's hard. It's hard to account for every little detail that could be something, Yeah. It's hard to do that unless you've done it countless times.
Sure. Yeah. and even then,
right.
I've been doing this show for just about 4 years, and I've started to just appreciate more and more like how quickly time can fly by and how much things change in our industry year after year, and thinking of each conversation like this just like a snapshot in time of where we are. And so another 4 years could go by and someone watches this interview with Rich, and it just makes me think about like capturing that snapshot of where we're at right now, and then like just having fun with where we might be in the next 4 years. Right now, like the theme industry is a little like I don't even know exactly where it's at. I know in like inner circles in WordPress, there's a lot of like conversation about it. Like the golden age of themes are well behind us, where it was a piece of cake to make a living and start a business around a theme business. And now it's saturated, is what I hear often. And you really have to be pretty special to enter this market and be successful. There's got to be something, and that something doesn't seem to be easy to find. And there are a lot of theme companies. There is actually no shortage of theme companies whose business has shifted to plugins. And other people have even talked about we're approaching a plugin bubble, and what's next? Is that space going to plateau? So you're diversifying your business just a little bit, as is like one would reasonably expect you to. So the next few years, you're pretty comfortable with the direction things are going. Is there any apprehension that you have right now?
I think I'm pretty comfortable comfortable in a way that I'm accepting challenge, and I'm comfortable with that. I think, like you said, the theme business now is definitely, I would say, shaky. It's if you don't have a good foundation right now, it's going to be, I can't even imagine trying to, bring a new theme into market without a name or a brand. If I were someone new, I would find someone to basically, to sell under or with. That's what I would do. But I think, moving forward, that there's a lot of opportunity that's coming around, especially with Gutenberg. And if if folks really embrace that and figure out creative ways to capitalize on that, it'll spur another movement, another, you know, maybe not a theme gold rush or, you know, plugin rush, but like another huge category of commercial plugins in a sense, or commercial blocks, I guess you would call them. Mm-hmm. And I think that if, you know, any, you know, good or, you know, pretty decent plugin or theme developers that do front end type of anything, you know, like themes are, you know, all front end, but any sort of block that does anything front end, or plugin, I mean, that does anything front end, should already start, you know, looking at Gutenberg and figuring out where they can go, and don't think of it as like a, you know, an add-on to what you already have, maybe, but more as necessarily like it's like the future of what you have. Mm-hmm. It's it really is. It's gonna be, it's cool. It's really neat, and there's, like I said, lots of opportunity. I'm excited for it. I've been researching and learning and lots of just exploring, and it's been great.
I don't know much about how this affects themes. Maybe enlighten me a little bit about like how this will play into a theme like yours. As far as you can tell, you said you've been researching and following it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So there's two things that like a theme developer can do. They can either you know, embrace Gutenberg and really do something cool, or they can decide to, you know, not use it at all in their theme. And that means, you know, you don't necessarily have to disable Gutenberg, but like, you know, right now, if you use a theme and you're using the visual editor, it looks like whatever it looks like, and then you hit publish, and the front end looks like whatever it looks like. Mm-hmm. You know, like, and they're not necessarily, it's not one-to-one at all. So what theme developers are going to do, which I hope they start doing, is making it to where when you're editing Gutenberg, it actually looks like the front end. That's like the first step of getting some parity. And then in that, so like I have a lot of, you know, like portfolio themes for like creative folk. Like those themes could have blocks, or I can have companion blocks to where, like, you know, like a plugin that goes with the theme, or one plugin for all of my themes that adds a bunch of different sorts of galleries and such. Because right now, you know, there's a meta box field where you add your images and you upload them through the media gallery. But in the future, Gutenberg will let it be so you can just, you know, hit add gallery and then insert a gallery, add another one if you want, like another one, or a slideshow underneath that. You know, like there's kind of a, you know, what it's doing is kind of splitting a theme into like 3 parts. Like right now it's the header, the content, and the footer. So anything in that content block will be Gutenberg. Eventually, Gutenberg will take the header and footer too. But I think the first step is for themes to figure out how they can be a part of that middle part, that content section, and then figure out how to empower people to use their themes and blocks together to build something really cool.
How much do you think you've had to level up your skill set to do this? Or was this natural for you, already capable with these technologies and methods, or was this like kind of new territory?
Pretty new, like pretty new territory for sure. Like, yeah, I didn't know a whole lot, but once you know, like, you know, developer type people usually can learn stuff pretty quick, because we're, you know, we recognize things, we recognize trends and the way things work and stuff in code, and we can see things, and before you know it, you'll be like, oh, this is like nothing. This is nothing new. As soon as you maybe spend like 2 weeks in it. But getting started with block development is not as easy as, you know, building a plugin.
Sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the complexities there are going to be when people try to understand how to use the interface better, like for blocks and plugins. For, you know, like, how do you do stuff the right way? Or how do you, instead of using, you know, a developer-centric, get it on the page and have a checkbox, or have a meta field, because, you know, meta fields might go away eventually too, like, because it'll be in your block essentially. So it's kind of shifting your dynamic in that sense. But once you do that, then you realize how awesome it is, and how now it's so much more intuitive than scrolling all the way down and plugging something at the bottom and scrolling back up.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. Okay. Well, it doesn't sound like too intense. I know when I first made a plugin that I definitely said, oh my gosh, that's really all there is to it. That's way easier than I thought it would be. Why did I wait so long to try and learn this? Do you think that there's a lot of people hesitating who will probably feel that way about building blocks?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, especially now with like some of the tool sets that have come out. It's literally like create Guten block. It's super easy to just like get something there and like start recognizing things and figuring out what's what. And then once you figure that out and, you know, look at the handbook and figure out like what the edit state and the save state is of things and see how everything works together, then you can just start adding whatever you want, you know, like if you want to add, and a lot of these components are built into Gutenberg. So it's not like you have to recreate things. I mean, I don't think I've had to recreate anything, and I've been doing quite a bit just exploring right now.
Yeah. Well, fascinating. So you're following along with how things are progressing, and you're feeling pretty positive about it. Like, how are you monitoring the progress and keeping on top of the conversation and staying in tune, or even getting involved if you are?
I'm not getting involved in the actual coding part of it. I'm more so just kind of checking on things, and I'm responding to a few things on GitHub. GitHub is where I just follow GitHub a ton, and you can find almost any question you possibly would have has already been answered, or at least like said, like, we're working on it, you know? So you can like, that's like the best place to start, I would say. And then on Slack, was it the Core Edit or Edit Core? There's a channel that, you know, you can ask almost any, or ask a question, and like some of the like top developers that are working in Gutenberg will chime in and help you out, which has been crazy. And like, whoa, this guy's actually helping me out here, and I'm just building a lowly editing plugin or something. And then I've just been, you know, keeping it on a bunch. I have a couple, you know, dev sites that I have it running on, and I have my live sites running the old stuff. So I'm just kind of keeping one-to-one and just checking things and making sure I style stuff right. So whenever it switches, the people that are already using my themes basically have like a seamless transition into Gutenberg, except for now they have all the awesome stuff that Gutenberg offers already. Yeah, which that's kind of challenging because things are moving fast, which is also a good thing. So, you know, it's a good end, but
yeah. Do you think it's too early for a lot of people, especially non-developers, to start incorporating this into their planning and projects and just building around this, or like even writing out their documentation or incorporating it into their training and so on? Is it too early for anybody?
I would say it might be early for documentation, maybe, you know, for training and you know, those kind of purposes. But for planning, I would say it's almost too late. Like, like really, like I would say, like, dive in and actually try to figure that out and try to see what a block, you know, consists of, and in ways that, you know, just try to understand, like I said, that dynamic switch of how we're using WordPress now and how we're going to use it in, you know, 2 years or so. I mean, Gutenberg is going to be this year, but it's going to take time for things to switch. But I know I'm pretty confident that once, you know, Gutenberg matures and plugins and themes start maturing with it, that we're going to, you know, look back, you know, in 2018 and be like, whoa, that was so archaic. How did we ever do that? Which is weird to think of, because it's natural now, but it's really unnatural at the same time. So I really think that's what it's going to be like. Like you said, in 4 years, yeah, maybe we'll have a follow-up. Yeah,
that'll be so fun. I'd love just thinking about what we're going to say in the future about, like, man, I can't. Any of you guys remember back when we used to like use shortcodes and stuff?
Right.
Like,
yeah,
is that going to be the conversation we're having?
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, we won't even teach people what widgets and shortcodes are. That won't be a thing. Like, yeah.
Will any of us miss them?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you think about new people coming to WordPress, like, there's so many ways to use WordPress. There's, you know, to put content on a page, there's shortcodes, there's widgets, there's actual text, you know, the text area box. And then there's sometimes theme customization options, like in the customizer, that really, you know, probably shouldn't be there. Then there's theme option panels that, you know, themes add. And then there's other meta fields. There's so many different ways to add stuff.
Oh,
like, there's going to be, there's going to be one way. And for us, like, we're okay doing it, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 ways. Cause we've, you know, when we first started, we might not have used widgets very much, or we might not have used a ton of shortcodes, but now we're like, sure, throw a shortcode there. It's super easy. And it's like, we don't even think twice. But for a new person, they're like, you know, EDD_checkout. What is it? What is this? Like, like, you know, this doesn't look like my checkout page.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, when you describe it that way, that sounds kind of amazing. I have so much firsthand experience. And maybe like I appreciate this even more than a new person might, just because if I go to a page and there's something there, could be something visual, like something appended to the page title, something that's output in the footer, something that's in the source code, like a tracking script in the header. I know that I got to find what's putting that there. And it could be a lot of things. And sometimes I will spend a surprising amount of time searching. Like, how did this tracking code get in the header? How did this this image get, or this piece of string of text get prepended to the post title? You know, how did this color get changed? This could be in theme settings anywhere. This could be in any of the plugins that are running. It's overwhelming at times, the number of ways something can be done. WordPress is just like, it's like too flexible at sometimes. Like, it's a weird Wild West. Yeah, but some greater consistency is something that is very appealing. And I think that the closest thing that I can think of that we've been through has been the customizer, especially for the for theme settings. When you know, we got some semblance of standardization as themes were pushed more and more to using the customizer instead of their own custom admin settings page. And we started to get more consistent experiences across themes from just a management perspective. And when that started to happen and I started to encounter more themes where my management experience was the same, I started to get excited. Like, this is pretty cool. A lot less learning, a lot more consistency. Happy. I'm happy. Maybe Gutenberg takes us in that direction in a very different context. You think that? You think so?
Yeah, definitely. It's, you know, it's a more personal context, because now you have the choices of doing stuff instead of an option in the theme panel telling you, like, turning it on and off. You have the ability to kind of, you know, take over and create what you want to create on the page if your theme lets you at the same time, you know. And I think it's going to be super awesome. So I'm really excited about it.
How about this? Are finished websites going to look better post Gutenberg?
Like already done websites?
Like new websites that get put together by people with blocks, customizing, going to town with all this there. Is the web going to become a more beautiful place?
You know, I don't know if it really has much to do with the blocks, with, you know, like the web being more beautiful in a sense. I think that's the theme's responsibility to take over and figure out that it would empower people, you know, people who aren't super technical, who don't really get into WordPress every single day, to do stuff. Like, it'd be much easier to do all sorts of stuff, whatever, you know, in the future, whatever blocks you add to your website, it would be something you'd be able to do instead of like adding a form. Will be, you know, you might hit the plus and, you know, click on form, and then there's your fields. You can hit the plus and inside of the form, and it might add more fields or subtract them, maybe or rearrange them. It's all right there, instead of having to go into, you know, contact form 7, add new, publish, copy the short code, go back to the page and put it in there. So like, it's gonna, I think that side of things will get better. The design side, that's the cool thing about themes though, and what I talked about earlier, is that the themes still have that sort of power to make sure things are beautiful. And if a theme developer does it right, it'll, you know, things will look right on the front end and within Gutenberg itself.
Very true.
But I don't know how many developers are going to put that kind of time and effort into it.
I don't know.
Especially if their themes aren't selling well, then they're probably not going to do it. You know?
That's a good point. That is a good point. I wonder if that's a greater concern for us. So, and my question comes from a place of just a lot of experience in the consulting days and knowing that the best parallel I can draw is that if my child were doing something, cooking in the kitchen, I would have strong opinions about which tools were at their disposal, and likely removing some that they could hurt themselves with, and unsupervised. And my clients were often, I don't know that I want to call them like children, but they don't watch this, so they were like children. And if they were given a lot of tools, well, they would make a mess. So this empowers people. That's great. Does it give them what's a politically correct way to give them a weapon they could hurt themselves with? Yeah. just build just like horrendous monstrosities, because I could just every time I see the idea of like a font resizing tool and pick not pre-given colors, not preset colors that fit, but any color picker. Whenever I see that, I'm like, oh man, that's not going to be good.
Yeah, I know there's a few things in the works, like you could lock templates down, you can create templates for posts and pages and custom post types. And you can make it so you can only reorder things, or you can't add anything to them, and all from like the developer side of things. And that's pretty easy to do. And I think when it gets tricky, like you said, like fonts and font sizes. Like I've already seen people, I've sent out a few like development stuff to a couple of my customers, like with the new Gutenberg stuff and some of my themes. And I'm just already seeing some stuff where I'm like, oh, that's what you tried to do. How do I make sure that doesn't happen? But I think like part of that might be training, which is tricky, but I don't know. Yeah, that's a hard one.
Do you think that the success of this project relies a little or a lot on how much theme developers go out of their way to embrace it?
I don't know if the success of the project, because I think Gutenberg has enough people behind it that it's gonna be something good. I'm confident in that. But I do think that theme developers have the opportunity to make it a lot better and a lot more pleasant to use, because the default Gutenberg theme, whatever it is released, this year or next year, is going to be what it's going to be on most sites, and it's going to be pretty cool, I bet. But I think a lot of people are still going to want themes based on what they want, and it's going to get tricky trying to identify if a theme works with Gutenberg or not. And it's going to work, but it's not going to be one-to-one, or not even be close, or might not style a lot of things the same. If the author hasn't done anything, it's going to probably not look. It's going to be just like the visual editor now, which I guess we got used to it. So
yeah, I'm greatly appreciate your enthusiasm. I know that like coming up here in the near future, I think you have some scheduled presentations. You're doing a talk at a WordCamp or two. So you're like not just like happy about this, but you're an advocate for this change, and like going out of your way, volunteering your time to help educate your people. Commendable stuff, and just like help all of us kind of move forward, embrace it, make the best of it. That's really cool. Something you kind of like just feel strongly about.
Yeah, I think like we're all in this together, and if Gutenberg is successful, we're all going to be successful. And if we put the time and effort to really learn it and push it forward, it's going to propel us even further. This is, like what did Matt say last year at WordCamp US? He said like, this is the editor for the next 10 years. Like, I think it really is. And this is like, it's such a cool time to be a developer who has the skills and the ability to, to be a part of this and to push, the edge and push the boundary and kind of bring people along and learn something new every single day when you're diving into it. And, at the end of the day, like whenever it comes into core, whenever that is, it's going to be pretty cool. We're going to have a learning curve, and a lot of themes are going to have to play catch up, and plugins and everyone. But in time, we're going to look back and be like, this was incredible. I'm just excited to be part of it.
Yeah, I am too. And also appreciating that Gutenberg is at the end. Um, and it is it would probably be foolish for us to think like once we get over this Gutenberg hump, it's smooth sailing. And we don't have to deal with any other big like earth-shattering changes. That's probably a little naive. The fact is, when Gutenberg is merged and off and running, we kind of move on to the next big thing, right? And that's being talked about now already. Like, how do you feel about the next step after this is there?
Yeah, I think, it's, like next, I guess it's the customizer bringing blocks into the customizer and working Gutenberg and the customizer together. And I think that's cool too, because it takes the best, the customizer is awesome for theme settings and Gutenberg is awesome for theme content. And now they're going to become one. Yeah. Somehow. So I think like if we're just consistently evolving ourselves, and you can't really and because you're evolving, you're overcoming these challenges and you're growing and you're just becoming a better developer, you're becoming more knowledgeable, probably getting more opportunities to contribute, to have fun, to build cool stuff, and you're just just growing up, I guess. And
do you think that stage will be more tumultuous than this is now?
I don't know. Like
it's hard to say without seeing anything in action.
Yeah.
And I know I don't know if you've seen it, but Mel Choice did share some concepts recently in her Lube Camp talk about what that might look like. Did you take a look at those?
Yeah, I did. A little bit more different than what I was thinking. A little bit, but it's interesting that that's even possible, or that would be possible. That kind of setup, and I don't know. That's different, but I think it could be cool to do something like that.
It sounds more impactful from the theme perspective,
right?
Theory that we're talking more just about like the site layout than just the content.
Right, but at the same time, your site layout stuff and whatever you put in your content is going to be third-party blocks, or not every block is going to be in core. So then what third-party blocks do themes support, or does it become, or do you is there going to be like a global utility style thing for themes to take over certain aspects of blocks? So that could be cool too. I've already thought about doing that in my own blocks to try to figure out one way to style, to style all my blocks differently in each of my themes, but they all use the same, classes, so that it's, you can basically swap things in and out. But I just think, if we're, if we're just, if there's ever a day or not a day, maybe a week, say, because, we have days, but if there's ever a week that as a developer, we're not, growing a little bit, then we need to take a look back at last week and see what happened. How do we push ourselves? And in a good way, in a healthy way, and how do we challenge ourselves? And that's a key part of our careers. And it's here.
Yeah, I think that's a good sentiment to transition into some of our wrap up questions here as we finish things up. You mentioned you're working on some other plugins. Any of those that you want to kind of just explain what they are, and if they're live, tell us where we can take a look.
Yeah. So the first is Login Designer. It's it's another login customizer plugin, but it's really I started it last year in December as just a entrance into really understanding the theme customize API and building JavaScript customizer controls and live previewing, and I did some really cool stuff, and it's all in the customizer and all live previewing. And I learned a ton there, and then I started applying it to my themes. So it's kind of like a bed for learning. And then eventually I'm going to release a few pro version with a bunch of add-ons. But it's just for learning and for fun. But it's super cool. I like it, and it's just at WordPress wordpress.org/plugins/login designer. And then I'm working on Merlin WP. I don't know if you heard of that. It's
Yeah.
it's like my theme onboarding wizard. Like I met Pramash Ziegler from Proteus Themes at Pressnomics and then at WordCamp US last year. And him and his team came out. They're the guys who do a one-click demo importer. It's a really popular importer. So they actually came in and added that functionality into Merlin. So now we have like their awesome like importing functionality with the UI and UX that you get from like an onboarding wizard that I built. And that's like so close to being released finally. And that's kind of exciting because like when we built basically a step in the wizard to activate EDD software licenses, because both of us use EDD software licensing a whole lot. And that's just super cool to be able to do something like that. And it's really cool because I met him, you know, in the community, and we just made a connection. And then next thing you know, we're building this super awesome thing that theme developers hopefully will use to make onboarding themes better. Because that's, you know, a tough point when you install a new theme and you don't like, what do you do?
Yeah.
But, so that's been a lot of fun. Yeah, those are kind of my two big ones. Yeah.
Those sound amazing. Yeah, everybody should take a look at those. Do you get very involved in your local WordPress community?
Yeah, well, I don't have any like local one because I'm kind of far. I'm like in the mountains.
Yeah.
So I have to drive like an hour, an hour or so. But like last week or 2 weeks ago, I went to Lawrenceville at WordPress Gwinnett. It's a meetup there, and we talked about Gutenberg and themes, like and how, you know, what that's going to look like. And then I just kind of meet up there and helped out a few people, and went to another one down in Atlanta. But yeah, there's like 3 developers like within like 20 miles, 30 miles of me. Like, but I don't even think they do WordPress anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. What's on your calendar for the rest of this year? Where might people bump into you exactly?
So I'll be at WordCamp Atlanta. That's where I'm doing the talk on Gutenberg block development for beginners, and I'm excited. That's my first like official WordCamp talk, which
Wow,
this is super cool. Yeah,
super cool.
Yeah, and that's the only one I have on the calendar right now. I have a few that I have my eye on, but I'm not for sure yet. It just depends because we're probably going to move in a couple months, and things are going to get crazy for 2 months there. But
are you relocating somewhere far?
No, just across town. I used to live over in that side of town like a couple years ago. But yeah. I just want to be closer to our family and friends. So
yeah. All right.
Yeah. And the internet's probably better because it's like 3 up and down here. It's sad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How do you get anything done?
Bad. I know. You have to time it all right.
Terrible. Okay. Do you have any good recommendations for guests that I might have on the show in the future?
So if you can get in touch with Pramash from Proteus Themes, they're doing a lot of really cool stuff with EDD, and I think they're the first shop that's doing monthly renewing rates for their themes, which is interesting. It might be cool to get some perspective on that. And you already had Tara, like that was a good one. And yeah, I would see, if you want another perspective from a theme developer who's doing, stuff at a bigger scale, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Good recommendation. Yeah, it's about time to wrap up. Is there anything that you would like to share or like recommend that people check out? We talked about a lot of topics. There's a chance that maybe there's something you were hoping to mention that you didn't, or something you would like to encourage people to take a look at. Anything you want to share? Yeah,
I would just say, don't be afraid to, install Gutenberg and actually see what it's about, and open up, or download the GitHub repository and really look at blocks and kind of identify things, and just get your feet wet and figure out where you kind of stand with what, the future of your business, if you're a business owner, or your future of your plugins or themes, or your agency, because it's going to affect all of those things. And getting started now is, you know, it's the time to do it, really, because things aren't going to change so much that you're going to have to rewrite everything. And then, yeah, that's for sure. And one thing I forgot to mention, I'm working on a theme, like I talked about doing earlier, a theme and a plugin combination called Writy. It's Writy.io, WRITY. And it's basically going to be like a medium style editing experience for WordPress using, you know, Gutenberg. And we built a couple of different custom blocks and like some subscribe blocks and some call to action stuff, things that really empower like the content marketing side of things. Because right now, like adding all that into the visual editor is not pleasant at all. And you don't even edit in WordPress right now. Like most people have like a Google Doc or something.
Wow.
Drop it in. But
yeah.
So like, yeah, that's what I do now. And then whenever I'm like playing with Gutenberg and like, you know, running through my tests and stuff, like, and then I go back to actually editing or adding a new post to my own blog. Like, I feel like I'm like typing with one hand. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is taking forever. Like, this is terrible. Or like you're switching back and forth, and then I'll just stay in the code editor and just, you know, space stuff out. You know? Add a little style plus 20 pixels or whatever. I don't know. But wow. So that's kind of like like what I said about sticking at like the 20-25% of the spectrum. That's where I'm sticking there as well. I'm building blocks and themes that kind of are really super purposeful and focused on a you know, particular task or niche, and try to, you know, provide the best type of, you know, soft package, you know, theme and plugins that are going to empower you to write.
I've never heard anybody describe it that way exactly, but I like it, and I think it's a good way to express it. Rich, it's been a really good conversation, and I am grateful to you for taking the time out of your evening to chat with me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was great. I had a good time.
So did I. And let's look forward to 4 years from now, where we look back and how right you were.
Hopefully.
I sure hope so. I really hope that you are correct, because you are optimistic and very positive. I'm grateful for that. So thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm.